Good morning and welcome to CIO Talk Radio. To learn more about the show, please visit www.ciotalkradio.com. Today's topic is how to enable secure cloud computing. And our guests for today's show are Elayne Starkey, who is the Chief Security Officer with the Department of Technology and Information with Delaware. Good morning, Elayne. How are you?
I'm good, Sanjo. Thanks for having me.
Great. So how's life and work? Both?
Life is good. Life is good all the way around.
All right, good. So you did not say how good is business. So that's a question mark, right? All right. So we also have Dan Lohrmann, who's the Chief Security Officer with Michigan Department of Technology, Management and Budget with State of Michigan. Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
Good morning, Benji. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Now, let me ask you this. With your title, you've got technology, you've got management and budget. Is there anything else that's left in the company, in the department?
Well, we're a centralized IT organization. We have enterprise-wide focus. So really, I do play the role as Chief Security Officer for the state of Michigan government. So we are pretty all-inclusive.
Great. Now, the topic that we picked up today and the premise of this is where whenever people talk about cloud computing, yes, there are some first adopters and people are using it as a mainstream paradigm for getting their computing needs taken care of. However, everybody, whenever they talk about cloud computing, they also talk about security and that being the weakest link or it is putting a damper on what we could otherwise achieve with this new paradigm. With that said, we can keep talking about what cannot work or introduce paranoia or introduce skepticism in how a technology paradigm would not be successful. How about taking a little more positive approach to it to say, guess what? Yes, anything which is a problem, which there should be a solution out there, and perhaps we don't have an actual solution right now, every I dotted, every T crossed, but we should be able to lay out a roadmap and say, this is what we've accomplished and this is what we want to accomplish. With that said, when we are looking at cloud security or cloud computing related security, Dan, I'll start with you. Do you think it is just a state of mind? And is it being overstated and bloated versus what truly is the issue?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, Sanjay, I do think to some extent security is a state of mind, but the way people will feel more comfortable with any vague concept is to break that down into smaller parts. I mean, cloud computing, we think of the internet, we think it's so broad. So someone asks you if you feel safe or secure when you're in your city or something, you may think not so, but maybe I feel secure in my neighborhood or my subdivision, which you may know better, that kind of a thing. So from a cloud computing perspective, I would say we need to break it down into smaller parts and define the smaller parts, whether we're talking software as a service, infrastructure as a service. Are you talking about a private cloud, a public cloud? We need to get that level of comfort and to feel secure. I think we need to break it down into its component parts and answer specific questions. And the more we can do that, the more trust we can build in cloud security.
With that said, Elayne, we have people who will take everything as we say about security and how we can address it, but they will always have a but, like a double quotes but. This is not going to really make me feel comfortable. So what is it that people are after when it comes to security in reference to cloud computing?
Well, yeah, definitely. There's some key components that we've addressed here in Delaware, and we've tried to capture them in our published terms and proposed terms and conditions. We've vetted it to our Attorney General's office, and we've offered that up to our agencies to use for any type of negotiation. I think it's important that we start talking about security very early in the engagement, not wait until you're ready to sign the deal. But what's important is that we're here to protect sensitive data. And as soon as you think about turning over infrastructure, turning over data to a third party, it certainly reduces control and introduces risks that people that sit in Dan and I see. When that's what we're all about. That's what we're charged to do, is to try to mitigate those risks. So as a starting point, I would suggest kind of start talking about the security early in the engagement and make sure the contractual language, there's safeguards in the contractual language if you decide to move forward with an engagement with a cloud provider.
Now, whatever we do with respect to engaging a cloud provider, is the onus of you making people comfortable and warm and fuzzy, does the onus lie on a third party that how secure are they? Or perhaps we could be the weakest link where we might leave a password exposed to an enterprise application which sits somewhere else. And guess what? Somebody from a coffee shop could actually be connecting to your most mission critical databases and pull things out, which you definitely find as a breach. So where is the weakest link truly? Is it truly, can we blame for everything that could happen or has happened to a provider?
I don't
Elayne?
think so. I think there's equal accountability. I think it would be wrong to just simply hope that the vendor's going to do the right thing. Is not a strategy that I would recommend. But certainly the standards, the security standards on maturing, the vendors have gotten better at implementing stronger security controls. So it's definitely maturing it would go along, but there's a lot of responsibility that the organization has. Ultimately, we are accountable and responsible for the protection of our data. So there's a lot of responsibility that falls on our shoulders.
Dan, a question comes to mind is that when we did not have cloud, that is the pre-cloud era, whatever you defined as an environment in which security was established and you called finally after putting all the checks and balances in place, you called it secure. Do you think is it the same field in which we are playing? Is it the same level at which we are playing? So what has changed in terms of the very benchmarks and standards with respect to what security should be?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sanjay. I think, the premise of your question is exactly right. I mean, knowing before somebody puts something in the cloud, what's secure today? Is it encrypted? What protections are in place? What logging is in place? What are you doing today to determine that you're compliant, that you're meeting PGI compliance? Looking at those specific deliverables and saying, okay, we know it's been audited, XYZ is being done today. Now you're saying, okay, what changes when you put it in the cloud? I think some of those components, it really depends, obviously, on the environment. Is it a public cloud? Is it a private cloud? In Michigan, we've actually built what we call our My Cloud, our private cloud or government cloud internal, that we can do some of the same things, provisioning, rapid provisioning, much quicker stand-up time for a lower cost. Maybe that's a lower set of risks. Whereas if somebody's going into a public cloud that they don't know where the data is, so maybe it crosses the level of international boundaries, there might be legal issues involved. So it really kind of depends on you're going from A to B, what is the context of that? And so for us in Michigan, we started with a private cloud and built that in an environment that was still in our data centers and still in our government networks with some of our vendor partners. But as we built that out, we had some of the protections. We knew the data was in Michigan. We didn't have some of the legal issues of going over international borders and those kinds of things.
Now, would you call your private cloud is nothing else but a data center on steroids, which is offering service in utility model?
Using some new technologies that are available from naming vendors, but I mean, there's a lot of different vendors that have it, whether you're talking, your response was HP, but HP, EMC, VMware, just a long list, Symantec, that have new sets of tool sets that allow you to do day-by-day meeting. Maybe you build differently. It is kind of a data center on steroids. It is using new technologies that allow us to do, for example, we're offering storage at 1/10 the price that we were offering storage before. More self-service, more ability to do things on your own, more options for our customers that may not need all the different, maybe they don't need replicated data, maybe they don't need the same level of uptime. Maybe they do. I mean, so depending on what you're looking at as far as redundancy and those kinds of things, or we're just talking about a test environment or development environment that may not need the same level of logging because you wipe the data every day or that kind of a thing. So I think our private cloud has brought more flexibility, more options to our customers at a lower price. And so to some extent, it is a data center on steroids.
Elayne, would you say that if an organization wants to feel secure, at least till date, the only option that they have is to go after the private cloud, which does not allow you to fully exploit the on-demand infrastructure, the scalable or a utility model, because you are putting fixed costs, which is coming out of your own budget in some form or fashion. It's just a different wrapper. So are we constrained to just calling secure cloud computing anything else but a private cloud implementation?
Well, I think step one is to kind of look at the data first, the data that potentially may be moved to the cloud, and think about the classification, think about the sensitivity of it. If it is protected data, for example, health data or criminal justice data or something like that, I would say at this point that those are not good candidates to move to the cloud today. But there are a lot of public, what we call in Delaware is public classification of that data that is very suitable for the public cloud application. And there's lots of examples out there, movement to the cloud. Even that movement, I believe, I contend, still needs to be very protected. We need to get heavy involvement in it. The vendors would like nothing more than for us to just kind of hand over everything to them and trust them. And as I mentioned before, that's not really a solid strategy. We need to understand exactly what data it is that may be leaving our environment and what we're testing and what we want to hold the vendors accountable for in terms of the protection of that data.
Yeah, Sandra, just to add to that, I mean, even in Michigan, we're moving towards a hybrid cloud. I mean, our MyCloud private cloud offering, our government cloud in Michigan has been about 2 years old now. We've been, working, growing it, adding more and different services to it. We are looking at a hybrid offering, and we do have some, just like Elayne just mentioned, we do have some services like our HR applications or our recruiting, which is software as a service, is a cloud offering. So we do have some public cloud out there that we do use in Michigan, but currently not for that most sensitive data, as Elayne mentioned.
Let's take a quick break, listeners. We'll be right back. And let's touch the topic of trust. So trust is kind of a two-way street. So the cloud providers need to provide you with some visibility and or often like allow you to see under the hood to see what's going on, where is my data residing. Whereas they also expect or they requested for you to trust them because this is again a state of mind to some extent. And only then this can be tried to a degree that if you are given the immunity by the government and or your respective executive management, and also are allowed to try what you want to try in order to see, really, is it that bad out there in the public cloud world? In 5 years, what would you have changed in terms of your checks and balances or whatever your policies and procedures were, the way people use your cloud computing infrastructure to ensure that you basically start saying, you know what, really, I don't need a private cloud. I can very well go to public cloud and still be compliant with all the regulation and feel warm and fuzzy. So what would it take? How will you instill trust? How will you make it a two-way street? Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We're always talking business. Talk to an expert. Call now, toll free, 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Voice America Business Network.
We live in an instant-on world, mobile and connected. To compete, you want data center flexibility so you can adapt quickly to changing business needs while keeping information safe. Introducing Enterprise Cloud Compute Services, HP's solution for managing secure servers, storage, and networks, delivered as a service. Pay only for what you need. Create order out of chaos. The instant-on enterprise is here. Are you ready? Start shaping your cloud at hp.com. We live in an instant-on world, mobile, connected, and fluid. Competing in this world takes a special kind of workplace technology that adapts to change, that allows seamless and personalized interaction. Introducing Workplace 360, HP's full lifecycle desktop management solution, delivered as a service. User subscriptions allow you to gain financial control and flexibility. The instant-on enterprise is here. Are you ready? Visit hp.com for answers.
Whether the market's up or down, or if you're looking to improve your portfolio, our experts are ready to talk to you. Call now. Toll free, 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Voice America Business Network. You are listening to CIO Talk Radio. To learn more about the show, please visit www.ciotalkradio.com. If you have a question or comment, call toll-free 1-866-472-5790. Now back to the show. Here's Sanjog Gal.
Welcome back. So Elayne, let's start with you. It is about trust, and it's a two-way street. And both parties want to make this happen and make it to a point where you do not really look at private out as the last resort or as the only resort that you have. Instead, you say, you know what, in 5 years, I would rather have a list of pre-compliant vendors. We should have a checklist of things and just provision IT as many of the private sector companies are already trying and being successful in. And it's not the state government versus federal versus private sector question. There are many industries who are still not able to go beyond the private cloud infrastructure. So what is it that has to happen in the next few years that would allow all of you to, without fear, jump onto this public cloud infrastructure?
The key part of that question is without fear, I guess. And that's tricky. That's tricky for us. Those of us in the security business always are. It's our nature to be cautious. So a no fear kind of an approach. Wow, I'd love to get there, and I've actually seen some progress in getting there. And as we've discussed before, I think the progress needs to happen on both sides of the table. The security, this space is improving. The vendors are improving the strength of their security offering. People like us are becoming more knowledgeable through programs like this and other materials to make sure that we are entering into the discussion with the vendors at the appropriate level, at the appropriate time, talking about the important things on protection. So, yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, I think what the people in our business, it is a death sentence for us to say no all the time. And this is a perfect example, Sanjay, of there's too many benefits that go along with this new face out here, this whole new paradigm. But the cost savings are incredible. The potential cost savings are incredible. The scalability that it brings you, the agility that it brings an organization, being able to rapidly deliver solutions. It's just too compelling of an argument for us to think that we can't get to that place that you just described. We will get there.
So, Elayne, the fact is that the benefits that you listed out are the ones that we want to realize. And for that, if we are saying, let's take the premise of you were given what you want to do. Suppose the lift off the pressure that you have to be thinking like always a state government, think like a business, run your government like a business and want to get there. What is it that you would do differently going forward so that you can truly say, we are going to remain secure, even though we go to public cloud? So what should happen? It's not all your responsibility. What do you want the rest of the world to do, whether it's vendor world, the compliance world, the consulting world, whosoever is involved in it? What has to change?
Very good question. And I think I answer it two ways. In the medium term or the short term, my preference would be all quell terms and conditions that we have defined, which talk about protection of the data, the fact that the state retains ownership of the data, the fact that the data is not allowed to reside offshore, they're not allowed to use any subcontractors that have any criminal history, negative criminal history. They've got to encrypt it as it's moving. I'm just summarizing some of the important terms and conditions that we require for any new cloud engagements. Medium term, short term would be that our vendors accept that without dispute, without negotiation. Longer term, I would expect maybe not even have that conversation with them, that they would come to the table with all of those in mind and understanding that they would need to come to the table and represent their offerings in a way that's going to satisfy the security requirements of my organization.
Yes, Joe, just add to that what Elayne was just saying. I mean, I think of private sector, we try and do run our state government like a business, and we have compliance requirements. Private sector has SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley. We have PCI compliance. We as a state government use credit cards all the time. So we have credit card data. We have PCI compliance as a central need, just like the private sector does. So that those things would be built in, as Elayne mentioned, as part of not negotiations, not the more, and one person I heard, I really enjoyed listening to about cloud computing said, the more exceptions, the more specialization, the more terms and conditions we have to add, the less it is like cloud computing, because you want it to be like signing up for Gmail. It just works. And when you just at home, I'm talking about. And so, I mean, it's for a personal account, and everybody wants that efficiency and that cost saving, but are those features built in that you need, the compliancy, those specific controls? And the one other answer I've heard that I think we are heading in that direction is the FedRAMP program, FedRAMP. Your listeners can go and Google that and look at FedRAMP. There's a lot of great articles out there, but it's a federal program looking at states as well and how we can have kind of pre-approved, certified cloud providers that have those things built in to make it part of the way we do business each and every day.
Now, do you think in order for us to all reach there, and yes, we have our own respective needs, are there some standards and benchmarks that are created across private or public sector organizations so that we can say this is one roadmap and we at some point intersect anyway? So suppose you have a compliance need and you're using a private sector company to meet that need, who in turn might be using cloud to meet that need, and or perhaps you're using something. So this is like a mesh at the end of the day. So is there one benchmark and definition, et cetera, that has been defined to say these three things or these 5 items when met, and I can check off these, is what I will call as this particular cloud implementation to be secure? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there's one. I mean, one of the difficulties is, like I say, government is we really are many different businesses. And I just rattled off a few of the compliancy topics, PCI compliance. We have HIPAA compliance, health information compliance. We have different, and within government, there are different business areas. And so in many ways, we are hundreds of different businesses under one umbrella in state government. We do taxes, we do roads, we do education, we do renewal of driver's licenses, and different areas have different requirements. In the same way, different businesses have different requirements. I think there's going to be, you could say it's all sensitive data, but just as we regulate things differently for smart grid, or different parts of government are regulated differently, different industries, credit cards might be different than other types of data. I don't know of any one. I think there are several really good roadmaps out there. Another one I'm working with, Tech America, has a commission on the cloud. Again, people can go to those websites, the Tech America Foundation website. They have a federal government did a really good white paper that's available out on the net that you can look at, that lays out the basic core component that people need to be considering and laying out that roadmap. And again, like I said, FedRAMP is another one. There's a number of really good ones out there that are trying to work on this topic. I don't know that we're ever going to get to one specific answer, but it'd be nice. My gut is it's going to, as I mentioned when we started the program, that you're going to have specializations. You're going to have certain, as we have certain zones in our network today for a higher zone for certain types of data. We have different levels of classifications in the federal government, state government, even the Defense Department contractors, top secret, different types of data. I think we're going to see probably different types of clouds for different types of scenarios, but I think we can get to a few. I don't know that we're ever going to get to one.
If you do not get to one, so Elayne, question for you is that 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, would you say that I can kick back and relax and let the cloud computing run my IT? And I'll feel warm and fuzzy about it, even though whatever that you pick up? Or is it still going to be the same conversation that it's a moving target? What does your crystal ball say?
Warm and fuzzy. I would love to say that I could get to a warm and fuzzy state. I'm not there yet, but there's some great work being done. I think that if we continue on this track, we're going to be able to realize the savings. We're going to be able to satisfy those people in our space wearing the security hat to try to mitigate some of these risks. I don't know. Dan, warm and fuzzy, do you think we can get the warm and fuzzy?
I don't know. I mean, I think you said something earlier that I really think is really important that every listener think about, and every CIO is that you can outsource the work but not the responsibility. So if somebody gets hacked, right, it's still going to come back to the politician or the government employee or the person overseeing the contract with your cloud provider saying, how did you lose my credit card data? How did you lose this data? and they're looking for somebody in government to be accountable for that. And so I think,
And it is our job, and we are accountable for
I
it.
think to that point, I think that you're always going to have, it is going to be a moving target in this sense, Joe, is that you're always going to have bad guys. We haven't grown out of people robbing banks.